Okay, so I just wanted to talk about a somewhat hollow victory that we experienced last week. It's hollow because there's an indication that that the criminals that did this are going to get away with it, that there's an individual who may be getting the death penalty who perhaps does not deserve it, being a patsy. It's also hollow because it's not quite clear whether or not the UN Small Arms Treaty has gone completely away, but I can definitely say that they will not try. In fact, it seems like they actually slacked up pretty hardcore in fear with the Times Magazine article with the How Guns Won thing. Tells me, and the fact that gun sales doubled after the event really tells me that they became afraid, and the whole thing just backfired. And I totally expected this to backfire. It's so ridiculous, and it really, when they pull off operations, and yes, I do in fact think that they were behind 9/11. And let me point out that Daniel Oates, who's the police chief of Aurora, I don't know how big Aurora is, but Daniel Oates was promoted to police chief of New York City. I think it was like also the head intelligence officer or something like that, maybe before him. Either way, he was police chief of New York City. He was promoted to police chief 1 month before 9/11. Now, you could satirically or sarcastically say, he has bad luck, but the truth is that it's way too coincidental that the same, and I think a month prior to this, InfoWars said that there was this attempted bank robbery, and he had everyone illegally held in a location, like 40 to 50 people, and what did we see the day of the Aurora shooting? Everybody was just forced into a government facility, a local school, where they were interrogated. And I really think something really bad happened there, because the interviews occurring after what I consider to be legitimate interviews appear to be in front of a blue screen. Multiple interviews, whether they're with the eyewitnesses, and then the eyewitnesses are actually changing their story once they're in front of the blue screen. So something happened. Either way, they literally, I cannot imagine Aurora, after all of this goes down, being anything but a site of major blowback potential. In fact, I'm actually kind of talking to somebody who may be able to give me some insight, I'm not going to say too much. And the truth is that I could be putting out a lot more videos about the inconsistencies. One of them I wanted to make had to do with whether or not the gas can, like the person says that one of the gas cans didn't come from his side. Now, that would be true, considering other witnesses spoke about how there were trails behind the gas cans, behind the tear gas cans. So, like somebody could make the argument, well, maybe it just bounced off a wall. Well, I really just don't find that likely. The person motioned like he only threw one. Now even President Obama's botched speech talks about him throwing both of them. So how do you like mechanically do that? Even like holding the pins. I imagine that a gas can has pins, and then releasing them with one hand. Other witnesses were saying that one of the shooters had a blue and white plaid shirt on, button-up shirt, I don't know. And then another witness saying, I'm not sure how many shooters there were. It just seemed like the gunshots were coming from all around. I've already basically proven that that there's through Lori Schaefer's interview that the interviewees cannot be actually trusted down the road, because she gave a clear contradiction in what happened. In fact, when she tries to divulge what actually happened, she was actually saying that they were holding her, those people in Theater 8, in the theater. And as you know, these are the people that said that the bullets were coming through the walls. Now, how scary is that? That they are now being sort of like goaded, coached into saying that bullets were coming through the walls in Theater 8. Did anyone get seriously, hurt by these conspirators in Theater 8? I don't know, but either way, it's just huge, blowing up problem. The mainstream media is generally sort of like ignoring it. In fact, you could even say that it was strategically placed before the Olympics, of which they can, then just sort of get everyone, all of these yuppie type of people, into the Olympics, rather than, because they would be very useful. These people that have very neurotic, neurotic tendencies, that they tend to, like, with their bleeding hearts, get really into something, and if they had some sort of issue with, is the government doing so well, those are the kind of people that would be into the Olympics, would actually have, like, become fixated on how the government's handling this situation. And as we can clearly see, they're not getting fixated. They're actually becoming more honed in. They're being distracted. All of this is a problem, though, because it's coinciding with a gearing up World War III scenario, which involves America, Russia, possibly China, but definitely centers around Israel and Iran. Because you see, the goal here is to get rid of Iran, because Iranians, they know the truth. They know, they basically know that there is a Zionist empire. Literally, you could call it a Zionist empire, which is pulling the strings of the world. And Ahmadinejad has outright said that, and they want Iran wiped off the map. They want us to go, like we went to all of these other threatening Middle Eastern countries, to take out, threatening to Israel, to take out the Iranians. And the thing is that at first they were like, okay, we can, a lot of people like Israel in America, so we can just go ahead and outright just show that Iranians are a problem because they want to take out Israel. Well, the problem is that a lot of Americans are waking up to how much bullshit the Israelis, like, I'm sorry, but there's just tons of Americans who are cognizant of how the Zionist regime is racist, apartheid, either way, they don't want us to be focused on Israel. Because if you apply any critical thinking to Israel, you immediately begin, realizing how much you would not want to side with Israel. Israel is the aggressor nation, and has been, and whose history basically is incredibly linked. I mean, Israel's a young nation. It was formed essentially after it was birthed out of the world wars. It's incredibly synthetic, basically based on religious motivations of very powerful people. That's the only reason it exists. So what are they doing? They're kind of like trying to stir up a problem between these forces with Syria. And if they can, they have no interest in annihilating or stopping the Syrian whatever the hell is going on over there. They want to escalate that situation into a war scenario that they can spill over by way of proxy into Iran, and then they can take care of Iran and Ahmadinejad, who really is one of the last standing bastions of the truth against this empire. Now, America is, by virtue of the system that it's supposed to be following, would naturally be opposed to the cabal and to this empire. However, we're just outright high-level committing crimes, ignoring the Constitution, just like as if it's a reasonable position to take the alternative of should we not obey the Constitution in this scenario. It is just absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. Now, what I'd like to point out is the fact that it is a hollow victory. But it could escalate into a very great victory, because, I have another video, my reaction to the Connie video, and I'm talking about how one day they're going to trip up, and they're going to trip up big. And I actually see this as one of the biggest trip-ups. I'm sorry. You cannot have a Holmes arrested near his car. Not only that, but the radio transmissions suggest that he was in his car. Near his car, when at the far corner, when you have all the way at the end of the building a gas mask, and they might say, oh, well, it was just some of the officers on scene's gas mask. No, sorry, there's a knife, not just a knife, but it matches the description of what the perp allegedly bought off of the internet, a bee-warned silver tactical knife, which is clearly being clipped into a piece of paper, being set down next to markers, which suggests it's being considered crime scene evidence. All of the, what basically happened, something happened in the back, which is evidence of something screwing up, and they are trying to, and their activities of trying to cover it up, and they tried multiple ways. I mean, you've actually got a pool of blood, and then you've got that pool of blood, you've got blood actually marked all over this blue car, and then you've got this like blood pack. It looks like a blood pack. I'm sorry, that's what the blood is not spattering anywhere. I might do a video on this in a little bit. It also looks like that because it was like in that cold and gelatin like phase, it didn't like splash or spatter like it was coming out of anybody. It looked like it was just poured there, and then it was like marked all over the car, and then they just threw the blood pack down. But I got a picture of that, and it's in one of the other videos. You can click on the description to see it. Anyway, hopefully enough people, and so I'm watching the mainstream media basically. I'm watching CNN, I'm watching Anderson Cooper, and they're just like, oh, let's talk about the psychology, and could this have been prevented, and basically kind of like avoiding all of the important questions. And the most interesting thing is everybody they cannot bring on intelligent people and talk about it seriously. They're saying, well, we don't know everything yet, and I'm interested in seeing what we're going to find, and because they're talking about what do you think about this notebook that got turned in? And so you're actually watching people say, I can't really tell what's going on. And that's really important, because that shows that they're doubting it. Anyone with half a brain is currently doubting the official story. You cannot have crime scene evidence down at the other side of the corner of the building with the gas mask and the knife and the blood. You cannot have it over there. You can't have, that's all you really need. You can't have that over there and have Holmes being arrested like literally a minute and a half after the shooting, near his car, at his car, in his car. You just cannot have that. Along with the numerous eyewitness testimonies suggesting that there was a second shooter, the transmissions talking about a car speeding away from the scene. Should we pursue? Talking about an individual running away from the scene wearing all black with a red backpack, and then another one with a black backpack. And then just outright denying it was the only. This is the only guy. This is the only guy. Them saying, they said that there were explosives in his apartment. They go over there. The spokesman for the Aurora police, just like hours later, says they checked out the apartment. They couldn't find any explosives in there. And then all of a sudden you've got this aerial footage of them exploding things in the open fields with no protective gear on, just bringing the boxes and exploding them, you know, trying to say, look, we're exploding the explosives. Everything seems to indicate that even if you went with the official story, how the heck would somebody have this level of sophistication, this funding? Why would he, you know, why would he do it anyway? It's let me tell you, like, I mean, you almost have to, it's so terribly done that you have to wonder whether or not it's being sabotaged from the inside. And number two, just how many people are involved. This sounds like, you know, like if you wanted to get like maybe like 10 people and then you task them with this and they really don't want to do it because it's, you know, they're lazy and stuff like that. This is just a half-assed psyop. You know, this is just my way of updating everybody of what's going on. And I was actually hoping that within this week that we would see this disclosure event, because that's literally how bad this was. That is, you know, and you can't stay focused on it for so long because it's so bad. Like, I'm actually feeling it. Like, I'm like, you know what, if I put out more information about how this is botched and how this is, you know, a fakery by the government, I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse. I mean, you've got everything you need. I mean, it's just like, it's so, I will say this, I am really surprised that you've got David Muir, you know, one of the Good Morning America people. And let me go and say this: the CNN chief quit. Robin Roberts has left yesterday, in fact. David, you know, what causes these people? What is it that they know? You know, what's going on in their personal situation, which is causing them to shill? It has to be scary. And you know what? It's like, if you don't understand how corruption works, I mean, it's just like, you know, watch a mafia movie, watch The Godfather. Understand that, you know, people, when you have a compromised executive branch of the government, right? You know, the Congress and the judicial branches, they're compromised to some extent, to a large extent. But what I'm trying to say, though, is, and the mainstream media, but when you have an executive branch that's compromised, that's like the combined sum of the combative abilities of the and intelligence of the human species. You're actually matching yourself against that. So it is not hard. It is not difficult to think of what kind of, and that's the whole point of the Constitution, which is decentralization. Decentralization. Do not allow too much power to belong to one person. You know, that's the whole point of the Constitution. Unfortunately, if we are to see, like, their whole scheme is completely reliant upon people not giving a shit. Their whole scheme is completely reliant upon people not being aware of the corruption. Because if there was a person who was doing all this and you knew about it, it'd be a revolution in no time. But it's all the people that don't know about it, which allows them and gives them that high. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how they're able to do this. Like, that's it. And I mean, and so when, you know, you've got, you know, Alex Jones calling it an info war, it really is that. The only way by which you would actually escape this scenario, like, literally, I'm watching the only legal means by which I would have pursued anything. Like I called a federal lawyer, and I said, you know, I've got this information. I've got a really great case against the federal government, and you know, they're saying, well, let me get your personal information. And I said, can I actually, you know, remain relatively anonymous? And no, we need to get your personal information. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, I'm not going to give you my personal information, but will you please go to this website and kind of like check things out? I think there might be something. And then they're like, you know, based on what you told me, I'm not going to be able to meet with you. And I'm just kind of like, okay, fine. You know what? Fine. You're going to push us into that point where we're not going to, you know, or we're going to have to take action. I mean, you know how many people are, you know, like, are you? Let's, you know, I'm sorry. Hey, let me just go to a random person. Hey, guess what? The crime scene evidence was found really far away from the car. Now that kind of means that there was a second person, and it looks like the local police department's covering it up. It looks like the FBI, now it's a federal police, you know, it's a federal investigative department, is covering it up. Hey, guess what? Obama was involved. Oh, so now the government, you know, the very highest points, probably international, considering, you know, the international powers are not speaking out about this, are covering it up. Just because there's a gas mask and a knife and blood found really far away from the car, you actually have, like, I'm waking you up that there's a global conspiracy, a global case of corruption. I don't even like to say conspiracy because people are like, no, then fine, I will call it corruption. There is a global case of corruption, a globalist entity corrupting us. Now, you know, knowing that, I mean, are you prepared to do absolutely anything? Like go to a movie or go to a grocery store or go to the mall, knowing that they will just that they will do this and they will cover it up. We're being killed. We are being forced to kill other people. It's really just like, I'm ashamed of who we are and who I am for just sitting here when there are people dying pretty much by my hand. All right.